Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. It's episode number 117, Gumbo Live, the #1 Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Our special guest tonight, it's Dale Yu of the Opinionated Gamers, or is it Donald X Vaccarino? We're going to find out when he comes on the show. Board Game Gumbo, a proud member of Punchboard Media. Check out some of our other fine members like Gaming Rules, Paul Grogan, famous for his how-to-play videos, game development, rule books, and live streams. Hey, if you want to learn a game, check out Paul's YouTube channel, Gaming Rules, Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Hit us up on social media, on Twitter or on Facebook, at Board Game Gumbo, and we'll be looking for your questions in the chat crew. But enough blather. Let's get right to our special guest, Dale Yu from the Opinionated Gamers. Come on in, man.
Hey there.
Hey,
Hey, what's going on?
Welcome to Board Game Gumbo. First time on the show. There may be some people who haven't heard of you, although I've been reading your reviews for years. Give us the elevator pitch. Who is Dale Yu, and why? What's with the Opinionated Gamers?
All right. Well, start with the blog. So I'm the founder of the Opinionated Gamers. We are one of the first and longest running English written review sites around. We've been writing reviews since 2011 on that site, probably over 1,200 to 1,300 total reviews. Our shtick, as it were, is we try to have no more than one review a day, so that unlike some of the other mega monolithic sites you might visit every day, and on our site you hopefully have one thing to come look at, read, come back, the next day we have something new.
So much consistency. So every day, just about, I wake up in the morning and somebody's posted a 3 a.m. review of a new game. I discovered the Opinionated Gamers, maybe like a lot of people. I'm from Louisiana, and looking for people that were from Louisiana, I found, of course, Greg Schlosser from the West Bank Gamers. He had tons of old stuff on BGG. He had Counter Magazine, and he also did some writing for Opinionated Gamers, right?
Yeah, the Opinionated Gamers is really sort of an amalgamation of a whole bunch of old sites that have come together. So we have, Greg and a lot of writers from Counter Magazine, which was one of the last actual, written and mailed to you print magazines about games. And then Board Game News, which was run by Rick Thornquist and then taken over by Eric Martin right at the end. A lot of the writers from there who were looking for a home we picked up. And then people that we've met in our travels that are interested in games, want to write about it. We've invited them to join. We're a pretty easygoing group. We've got a super active email group, which I think that's half the reason people like to be in our group, because we chat all the time and, rag on each other and do things like that.
One of the coolest things I like about Opinionated Gamers, and I even try to do that a little bit, as we said in law school, you research, or you plagiarize, and you call it research. That was what one of my professors told me. Don't reinvent the wheel. And one of the things I love about the Opinionated Gamers is at the end of the review, and then you also have these like amalgamated reviews, but there's always this other thoughts, and it's a nice little paragraph, or 3, depending on the writer, but usually it's a nice little tight paragraph about what they think. So you might actually contribute to something Chris Ray did. And then there's a little, I like it, I love it, those things. Who came up with that? Because to me, that is a beautiful system, because you can see the different flavorings. If the review is a little harsh, well, I can see why Dale thinks it's good. Who came up with that?
I did in a way, but my wife's a lawyer. She's told me the same thing about the whole plagiarized business. And to be honest with you, we've sort of borrowed it from Spielbox magazine over in Germany, because that's what they do. And we read that, and we just think it's a great idea for exactly what you said. 2 reasons really. One is if someone has just a little opinion, or they want to get something in, it's easy to do. It's easy to talk someone into, hey, you can just come write a couple sentences.
Right.
The other reason why we like to have it is, we don't use a number rating system. We have this sort of our own 4-step system. I love it. I like it. Neutral and not for me.
Not for me.
And not for me means a lot of things, right? I mean, it's not
good
exactly.
Game, but I don't like social deduction. Not for me.
Right. It's not. Yeah, it's not like the Tom Basil, I'm going to set this on fire rating.
Throw it off the roof.
Right. But for a lot of people, they want to explain that, because not for me isn't meant to be pejorative. Sometimes it's like you said, it's just not a game that I want to play, but I can see why other people would like it.
Almost 10 years now. So next year will be 10 years, 2011-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are written reviews still relevant in this age of video? I write written reviews, so I have an answer in mind. I hope we share a break on that.
I think so. I mean, that's why we're still doing them. It has. I thought it had died down, but to be honest with you, our readership, honestly, is still real good. And we're pretty happy with that. I have not really chosen to monetize it though. I mean, the whole thing is, we don't have any ads, we don't take any support. We just write because we like it.
Right, because you like it.
And we have enough people out there, reading it still. We just love doing it.
There's Jesse Fernandez checking in. What's up, Jesse? Good to see you. Beat Thomas Grieve, the first person to comment in there. And, of course, Namefather is going to come back in and help us run the game later in the show, and you got to meet him in the green room. Awesome. Mm-hmm. See Steve again. Yeah, you give hope to people like me and Eric Buscemi that from the Cardboard Horde that people are still reading it. And when you tell me privately what those numbers are, that gives me, that hope that people are still reading the written word. I was telling you before the show that I typically, when I do, I always go to written reviews first. When I go to BGG and I see the reviews, I click on text first every time. I might go to a couple of video reviews, but I'm going to watch the first part, skip all the boring mechanics part. Look, Jay's shaking his head. Skip all the boring mechanic parts and then come back in, and I want the sense. How do you feel about those mechanical reviews that say it's a 7.2 for this and an 8.3 for this, so the amalgamation is a 9.1? By the way, I'm not dogging them. Just
everyone's got their own style. Some people laugh at me. My own opinionated gamers. They say that I'm my review style is Soviet block concrete construction. Because over the years I've developed a fairly not rigid. I get in a habit, and personally I like. And it's easy in the written review because even easier than video. If you want to read the mechanics, you just skip that paragraph and you can go down to the bottom, my thoughts on the game. You know what I think about it. But for the people that don't, I've always wanted to get, I don't feel like I need to regurgitate every rule, but I want to give the reader enough idea, hey, how do I play the game? What happens and what sort of decisions go on? How does the game round work? Because for some people, that's how they determine, do I want to play this game or not?
Because Duty had a post where he talked about written reviews. I don't know if you ever read that one. I actually have it bookmarked because I go back to it every time I start to stray and forget what I'm trying to do, or if I'm grabbing a particularly tough one. And he talks about how Drake's Flames would always give you what's the game about from an emotional standpoint, because that's really what Bruno, and he said all gamers care about. I know that's not quite true. A lot of people care about the mechanics, but I think that's the same way. And in some of the things you do, you carry over different discussions like, hey, remember I talked about this or I've talked about that. And I think that humanizes the review and it rewards people who continue to follow the website. Do you consciously try to do that, have a conversation with the person reading the blog as if they have been following you forever?
A little bit, yeah. More consciously now than in the past, but certainly, I feel I have a very stable audience. A certain number of readers that read, subscribe, read every day. And, they comment a lot in the comments or send us emails off list. And it's good to know that there are people that kind of, read most everything that we write. And it's good to, that you can have this sort of one-sided dialogue with them, We've got our very first Buggles reference on the Gumbo. Chris Ray bringing up the Buggles video may have killed the radio star, but the written word is alive and well. Do you know that reference video killed the radio star? I do.
The
first video on MTV.
Very first video on MTV. The keyboardist Jeff Downs, later keyboardist for Asia. So and of course,
I'm unaware of that.
Oh yeah, they got their big break in 1981 from MTV. Also, whenever they mention MTV in one of their songs. So, so thank you, Chris, for that memory lane trip there with Video Killed the Radio Star. So I'm glad we're on the same page. There's still a place for written reviews. People are still reading them. Video is everywhere. It's ubiquitous, but I think people still want to enjoy a conversation. I think we have to get away from dry reviews, though, and have that conversation. And I think that's what people enjoy. I think that's the secret to Tom Vasel and Shut Up and Sit Down also, because in a video format, they're having a written fireside chat with you. And if you watch enough of them, you recognize some of the tropes or some of the things. You can almost predict what they're going to say about a game just based on your experience with them.
Yep.
Do you read? Do you watch any video review?
Honestly, not really. I just find that I don't. I like reading and writing the written review. They don't take as long It's very hard sometimes to, how do I figure which is the 3 minutes of a 15-minute video review I want to watch? I just don't know that.
That's true. Chris Train checking in, asking for troubles. Big news, Dale, recently. If you've ever played Asking for Troubles, we've been begging for an expansion. Chris has had an expansion ready to go for years, and Chris actually showed off some of the PPC versions today. So super excited. Can't wait to see that, Chris. There's a lot of things in there. So you're going to have to tell me, Chris, offline how some of this is going to work. But because there's a lot of stuff that he's putting into the game. But Asking for Trouble, one of my favorite worker placement gateway style games where you can teach somebody the mechanic, and still there's a lot of meat in there. Chris says it plays to 7, and I played it to 7. Chris, I really enjoyed backed off a little bit, like 5 or 6 or 4, but it plays 7 very well. So that is and that's right. It's making the birthday girl Verla very happy with more troubles. Have you ever played Asking for Troubles?
No, I haven't.
Okay. That is Chris Strains. All right. So what do you think makes a good written review, Dale? What do you think, when you're reading a written review, what are you looking for in it?
I mean, like with all reviews, it's really just I want to know what makes the game work for you. What did you enjoy about it? What didn't you enjoy about it? I'm honestly, with a lot of reviewers, less concerned with did you actually like it or not, though, because everyone likes different games, and heck, there are 2,000 new games a year. It feels like that. But if it is someone I know, though, whose reviews I'm familiar with, then I would put more credence in whether they like it or not. But otherwise, I'm just trying to get a feel for how the game works and what parts people liked or didn't like about it, and then apply that to sort of my own internal rating system to figure out, hey, do I want to try this or not?
I like that. So you're famously known as the gaming doctor. I love that whenever your little tagline at the end, the gaming doctor. But I did have a question. One I did not come up with is, how much is practicing medicine just like the game of Operation? Is it pretty close?
Yeah, pretty much. You just, you got to practice. You screw up, the guy's nose turns red, and then you got to figure out how to fix it.
It's like it, right?
Right. Just like real life.
Operation, so thematic. It's the perfect game to, if you want to in fact, we could probably, in this age of coronavirus, we could probably get rid of the cadavers and just use Operation, right? Think of the money we would save too.
Well, everything's done over Zoom now, so it wouldn't surprise me if they can take an appendix out over Zoom.
Your buddy Chris Ray gave me some of these questions, Chris. As snarky as I am, I'm going to have trouble reading these online. But they're really good questions, and I'm going to see if I can sneak some of them in there. BJ from Game Gumbo, got my guest Dale you from the Opinionated Gamers, but not just Opinionated Gamers, also from BGG. And that's the story I don't know. How did you get hooked up with the BGG crew?
I've been in gaming since, 97, 98. And, I've just known Aldi and Dirk forever, to be honest with you.
A malpractice expansion for Operation. I like that.
Not in sort of a bragging sense, but like my Board Game Geek user number, I think is 800 or 500. I was one of the first guys on the site and just have kind of always been around.
I joined the site many years ago. I don't remember exactly when, in the 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that. And it was just on a Google search, and hated it. I was like, oh my God, this site is terrible. And I don't even remember. I can't even log into that account. I don't remember the password or anything, or even what email I was
using. We could reset it for you. That's no problem.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I remember just going, God, this is terrible. And then I went back to it years later. And now of course, I'm so used to it. I love it. I love the references. I feel comfortable in it, but I was totally intimidated by it years ago. So I always tell people, look, it may not look splashy like some of the other sites, but there is no better site. I think no better community. Some of the people that you're going to see in the chat crew here, those people came from BGG. Steve O'Rourke, the name father, I met him through the Dukes of Dice forum on BGG. And there's so many of these forums that I'm sure that the site's so big now that Aldi doesn't even know some of the connections that people are making. Areas of the site, he doesn't even really know how much it grows. So thank you, and thank all of the BGG team that puts together a fantastic site and a great convention, by the way. Don't tell Tom, but the BGG Con has become my favorite convention. Even though I love Dice Tower Con, I love it to death. But BGG Con is becoming my favorite because it's right there in Dallas. So coronavirus is over, let's say, sometime in the future. What's the first con? If there was only one that you could go to, What's that con, Dale? Which one are you gonna like eating Bluebell ice cream as soon as you can when you get to Louisiana? What's that con you're gonna want to go to?
I think honestly, it's probably still Spiel in Essen. I mean, I still get a kid in a candy store kind of feel about it. I mean, honestly, this year will be only the second year since 2000 I haven't gone.
Wow.
But man, I mean, you show up there and you just walk in that building and it's like, holy cow, there are like 3,000 new games here and all my old friends and, and those spiral fried potatoes. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, but there are all these experiences. Yeah, I do have an unhealthy addiction to them.
As you could tell, I'm a fanboy. I've read your travel logs, man. I really enjoy it. That actually might be my favorite thing besides video reviews is the travel logs. When people describe going to a convention or doing things like that.
I cannot tell you how much hate mail we get for that.
I'm telling you.
That is the one thing people are passionate either for or against. Like, what are you talking about this? I want to read about games. I'm like, this is part of the experience as far as I'm concerned.
I absolutely love it. I shamelessly stole it, and I do a similar type of travelogue at almost every convention I go to. I mix in, just like y'all do, I mix in some of the games I play, but I also try to give people who can't make the con, this is not a, hey, look what I did type of thing. It's more like, hey, come into this community. You're a part of it too, even if you can't be there.
Yep.
This is some of the stuff that's going on. Hey, we got some pretty good comments on the video and written reviews. Chris Strain says, in written or video reviews, I always forward to the final thought. And my buddy Brandon here from the Punchboard Media says, and also from Opinionated Gamers, I've often wondered if we should just write the final thoughts at the beginning. I don't know about that, Brandon. What do you think, Dale?
I mean, maybe, for a while we were running contests where we put the contest entry stuff in the middle of the mechanics so that you'd have to read the whole darn thing to figure out when or how to apply for our giveaways. We've moved away from that since, but it's a written review. You just scroll to the end.
Hey, for the first time ever, I've been reading medical, whatever they call them, medical journal reviews and things because of the coronavirus. And Steve has a good point. Brandon's thoughts on this are right on. In publishing research, there's typically an abstract that summarizes the whole. And he's right. I mean, I keep seeing these journals, and the very first paragraph is this abstract which kind of tells you what the whole thing is going to be about. Now, I'm pretty guilty about a lot of times that's all I read because that's really all I can understand anyway. I need the dummy's guide to whatever they're talking about in this virus. But what do you think of that? Should reviewers try that? Just a little abstract at the top?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, the only way we're measured is on page hits. And I mean, frankly, if you read the first sentence, I still get the same page hit.
That is true. That is true. BJ from More Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Dale Yu from the Opinionated Gamers and from BGG. Dale, I first found out about you from your work with Dominion. You had done the development work, and it looks like most of the cards or a lot of the cards and all that. But there's a lot of deck building fans on the Chat Krewe that come every week, and we debate about which is the second best deck builder after Baseball has 2045. That's usually what we're all fighting about. What about you? What's your top non-Dominion deck builders? What do you like out there? Do you have one, or is Dominion the end all be all, second place to Baseball Highlights 2045?
I mean, that's a fair statement. No. I have a soft spot for Tanto Kore, even though it's essentially still Dominion, with sort of naughty anime art. But that was the first sort of, knockoff that came along.
Jay says Shards of Infinity?
That one's not bad.
Okay.
To be honest with you, we haven't played I haven't played too many of them. I honestly got a little burnt out. In the testing of Dominion, I probably played, 3,000 to 4,000 games.
Wow, that many.
And it burns you out a little bit. Before I don't know if you remember when Isotropic used to be the way you could play online.
I never did that one.
It was like a text-only version of Dominion. Games were lightning fast on there, and it wasn't really made for a commercial sense. You couldn't have a subscription. I mean, I think they tried to do that for a while. But, man, you could get a game of Dominion on there in like 3 or 4 minutes. And so when we were testing stuff, we would throw up new cards and just blaze through them. But, man, you play a lot. And
text-based only like the old Infocom games, like Zork and things?
I mean, sort of, yeah. I mean, you just had here's your hand, and here are the 7 cards in your hand, and, here's what's left in the tableau to buy. It it was interesting, but that's how we did a lot of our initial testing. That and this weird text-only program that was compiled in Pascal by Donald himself, which was pretty awesome.
And y'all would use that for testing also?
Yeah. I mean, state-of-the-art technology in 2008.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, in the last 10 years, how much has online gaming changed? You're not a big partaker of online gaming, right?
Not anymore. I used to be. Back when Brett Struvelt had just come online. Yep. I was the level 15 or 16 user, had all the games, played all the time.
I had trouble with that site, but I think you know why. I mean, it was a pretty tough interface.
It wasn't user-friendly at all. Whoa. And, the fact that they tried to overlay this whole RPG-like system on it with experience points, and you couldn't get into certain games until you had enough points. Super frustrating for a newbie to come along, because you want to come and you want to play, I don't know, Emerald or pick your game, right? But you can't because you have to have 1,000 experience points to do that. And it was kind of frustrating.
I think that we used Brettspiel because that was the only, I don't remember which game it was, but it was one of the German games, maybe Carcassonne or something else. And it was the only place you could play it.
Yeah.
Originally. And so we had to start up an account. But boy, I remember just fighting through it and then saying, okay, well, we're just going to play something else. And then we just played Board Game Arena and we're like, okay, now this, that and Yukata, that are the ways to play online game. And so we got hooked on those. But the evolution to Tabletopia and TTS, have you experienced any of those platforms?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Played a lot on Tabletopia this year. One of the games that I'm developing right now, we are testing on that and Tabletop Simulator.
Does it take the place of your regular game night?
Only because of coronavirus. Right. But no, normally, it's for the most part, it is an okay substitute. Certainly also, because we're chatting on Discord or Zoom or Google Meet in the background. So it's like being in the same room. But, you don't get the same feel. I think we're all board gamers in part because we like to be with other people. We like to hold the cards in our hand and OCD arrange them in the way that, people are making little statues of the meeples because that's what, the tactile part of board gaming is very important to me. Because if we weren't, we would all be video gamers.
I was sitting playing for the first time since Friday, March 13th. I played with my Scout Dad's group. Just 4 people, all with masks on, all at opposite corners of a table. We're playing the new Azul expansions with the little overlay board. They had not tried it. I've been having it for months, but we couldn't play it. And we're trying it, and it reminded me right away. The clickety-clack of the tiles, the sidelong glances at the 2 boards left and right. At certain, I am not a mean gamer in Azul because I'm just not good enough to even get to that stage. Even though I've played it, a million times, just terrible at it. But every once in a while, when nothing else is going on, I'm taking a peek at the board to my left.
Yep.
Oh, you can't put red. Okay, and you miss all that with online gaming. But my theory is that online gaming doesn't replace board gaming, but neither does game group gaming at a game store or at your house replace online. They are actually have become different. Whereas they started as, if you can't get together with your friends, here's something you can do that's just like board gaming. It's even got a hand on it. You can move things. You can flip the table. You can spin it around. Look at these cool graphics. And then I discovered through our our Gateway and Filler Games group that Steve runs, the Namefather runs, I discovered that it's a separate experience. I enjoy the experience of hanging out with Jay and Steve and a bunch of other people on Friday nights playing Gateway games with people from all over the country. People I wouldn't be able to play games with these people on a normal basis, except maybe once or twice a year at a convention. So it doesn't replace my regular game group, my Wednesday night Gumbo game nights or my Scout Dad nights once a month. It's a different experience. And I'm hoping that the people that aren't doing online gaming because they say, I've got to have that experience with cardboard, I think that they're missing out on a different experience of gaming.
Yeah, I think that when this is all over, I'm going to end up with both a physical game group as well as an online group. Part of it is, I game with my brother every Sunday night now, and he's in LA. So, it's 2,200 miles away. This is really the only way we ever get to play. Oh, there's Luke. So, All right, so I should make a shout out. So the other place that we play games is playingcards.io, which is, like a total 8-bit site. It is, graphic, but just barely. But for card games, it is actually the bomb, especially for playtesting. You can modify things on the fly. That's actually been, I think, because the game I'm working on, which I can't say the name of, but Luke Hedgren is the designer of it. We have play tested it both on Tabletop Simulator and playingcards.io, and I actually kind of like it better on the kind of ghetto playing card site as opposed to the true physics of Tabletop Simulator.
Interesting.
I don't really know if I need to see how the cards fall and bounce off the table. I just want to play a card game.
You mentioned your brother, is it Brian, right?
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't normally get to play with him because he's on opposite sides.
And he's too famous and successful to hang out with me normally anyways.
Well, that brings up a question that Chris wanted to know. What is your least favorite Brian Yu game of all time? Would it be Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters, a favorite of some of the members of the crew?
It might be. For all the times I played it, I've only beaten that damn game once in my life.
I've never tried it, and Dustin is a huge fan. His kids love Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. I got to play this game, man. It looks pretty cool. I need to try it out. But yeah, so I agree with you. I don't think it's going to I don't want the game group to go away after all this goes. I enjoy and look forward to my Friday nights with them. Steve raised a good point. Although it's not tabletop board gaming, one online thing that has been good is RPGs Online. Works very well for theater of the mind stuff. I have heard a lot of people have very successful RPG game nights online. I think that's been a blessing to them.
For sure.
Chris says the game is fantastic, and so is the expansion. Well, Chris, we're going to talk about Brian Yu all night. So, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, I've got my guest here, Dale Yu from the Opinionated Gamers, and also from BGG, and we're talking some of the spicy hot games. One of those games that I haven't played, that Dale has played, is a game I'm not going to try to pronounce. Dale, can you say this one for me?
Yeah, so this is Hallertau, which is the name, I think, of a town or a city in Germany. And, it's going to come out from Lookout, I believe, in October. I mean, I think it was slated to be the huge Essen release for the year. But it's a Rosenberg game, so of his recent history. So it's, I think has the same kind of feel as a little bit of Agricola, a little bit of Odin. It's just one of these games that has a whole bunch of cards that interact with each other. Multiple ways to score points, but it's a really
games then more of the farming economic type.
Yeah, okay. yeah. This is another farming game. You have a board with fields where you plant, crops and make things, and then this picture here is one of the actions. So it's also a worker placement game. It has a pretty nice worker placement thing where every round you get a set number of workers, and then obviously it's the usual bit about trying to, how many workers do you need to take the actions you want? And sometimes you'll take a crummier action because it costs less as far as the people cost is.
Hey, Brandon, this is not the Draft Mechanic podcast. I don't know those kind of hops, so I'm going to trust you. Brandon says it's also a variety of hops. So, and by the way, I borrowed these pictures from your feed, so thank you for, I want to make sure I give credit to you. Yeah. So. I'm not sure where you got the pictures, but I'm assuming that these are some of the publisher pictures.
These are pictures I think that I just cut and pasted out of I dredged them out of the PDF rulebook. So at the top you can see that's the main player board. The little house there, it kind of moves to the right as you move on, and there are those 5 little buildings in the middle where the number 3 is.
Oh, sure.
The rules say, hey, in number 3 you do this. Anyways, those buildings all move off to the right. You pay to move them to the right. And as they all move forward, the little farmhouse kind of travels behind it. And as it travels to the right, you get more workers per round, and then eventually you get more victory points. So the whole idea of the game is to get enough resources to move those buildings forward, the little buildings, which then move the big building forward to get you stuff.
Jay talked about the art. Are we talking about Uwe's favorite artist? Is it typical artwork here? Or
I'm almost positive that it's Clemens. I mean, man, it looks like Clemens art. I mean, but he's pretty much the in-house guy for
for Lookout.
So, and he's a good buddy. We've Clemens and I and Hano from Lookout worked together. We actually co-designed a game that lost the frickin' Kennerspiel to my brother, Geister.
It's tough. That is tough.
Yeah.
See, he says Steve says it's Clemens Franz and also Lucas Segmon. Hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I don't know Lucas though, but yeah, I mean most of the art, certainly the cover art is Clemens. Yeah, and then these are plenty of action cards. There are 4 different decks, and the game itself is meant to be modular. I mean, in the print and play that I have, which was a beast to print out, you only get 1 of each of the decks. But I think in the full release there will be at least 4 decks, 4 varieties of 2 of the types of decks, so that you can mix and match them and have a nearly infinite number of combinations to play. Kind of like Agricola, where they have all those different occupation decks, and then
I'm thinking in my head, and that's why I was staring off into space. I'm thinking in my head, if somebody had asked me to P&P Agricola or Caverna, wow, that would have been a nightmare. That would be a big job.
Oh, I did that too for Lookout, but that is not the worst. The worst one was frickin' Suburbia, because Ted kept making these hexes that I had to print out, and there's no way that you can use a paper cutter to cut hexes. You gotta get there with scissors and cut them all out by hand.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of cutting. Suburbia. All right, so just some thoughts on Hallertau.
Yeah, I mean, if you like Agricola, Feast of Odin, you'll probably like this one. It plays quicker though, 60 to 90 minutes.
Interesting. And that is Hallertau coming out from Lookout Games. Is that going to be an Essenspiel release?
That's what I'm told.
Yeah. So take a look at that. I know we have some. That's hops on the card. It's not the Draft Mechanic podcast, friend. I'm going to lose control of the show if we start talking about beer. All right. DJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Dale Yu from the Opinionated Gamers and from BGG. We're talking some of the spicy odd games we played. I got to play a game at UK Games Expo all the way in London, although I was here in my shorts in Lafayette, Louisiana, getting ready for a hurricane, playing online as we do now. And that was Venice from Brain Crack Games. Are you familiar with that line that Brain Crack has?
Brad, I haven't played any of them yet.
Okay.
Coronavirus. But.
Sure. There was Ragusa that came out last year. And then Venice came out with a different designer, although the solo is by David Turchi again. And then they just announced a new one that's coming out, Florence, which looks pretty cool. Again, another designer, the one who did Pacific Rails, if I remember right. Okay. Venice is a pick up and deliver game, but Dale's got a twist. Are you a pick up and deliver game fan? Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Okay. So I didn't think I was a pick up and deliver game, and yet I keep playing these pick up and deliver games and enjoying them. So maybe I like it more than I thought. But it's a pick up and deliver game with a twist. Hey, you've got the iconic canals flowing through Venice. You've got all the different little city buildings. 3 of them are communal. They're going to be there in every game. The Doge's Palace and a couple other ones. But the rest of them are going to have, you're going to put them out randomly. And on those tiles, they're going to have different little spots. You can't really quite see it from there, but they're going to have actions on those tiles. And if you played Ragusa has it where the earlier you get to an action, other people will go to it, and you're going to get a free benefit. I love games that do those free benefit things. My favorite, I remember my mind was blown when we were playing Scythe the very first time, and I upgraded. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's in List. One of your spots on your board, and then somebody else did something, and you got a gold. And I'm like, oh my God, I got a free gold. All of a sudden, you become invested in everyone else's turns, right? Yep. So Ragusa had that. Well, Venice doesn't quite do that. But again, it's got this clever bonus action thing. On those buildings, if you go there and put your assistant on it, every time you go to pick up and deliver somewhere else, Dale, not that building, every time you just pass by it on the canal, your assistant is working there and he says, hey, let me give you this free action. And then when other people come to that building, they bump your assistant to the next level. So now you get that action and the one behind it. Every time you and your gondolas, every time your gondolier goes through the canals and passes by, you can imagine at the very start of the game, you're taking like 1 or 2 little actions, little tiny baby turns, learning the system of the game. By the end of the game, You're going way out of your way in the city to try to connect the dots of all these different buildings that you have assistants on, just taking all these crazy actions. So stuff like that just juices me up. I love it. Oh, that's a nice thing that the designer put in where you can see all the buildings. But there's the buildings I was talking about. See those 4 little quadrants there, triangle? Yeah. You can put an assistant there and they get bumped around. And the further they go on that track, the more actions you're going to get. Cool. The game is supposed to take about 90 minutes. My problem with online gaming is that it just seems to make everything longer. A game of Fort, which should take 30 to 50 minutes, seems to take an hour to hour and 10 minutes. This game, which easily with 3 people should hum in that 1 hour wonder, 60, 65 minute type of range. It takes us an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's only because trying to move money around or click on buildings or move your thing or see what's going on. So don't take that if you play the game. It's not a replacement for playing the physical game. But Venice is one to watch. I think I'll be honest, I like it better than Ragusa. Although I've probably played Ragusa out now, playing it 6 to 10 times. I can't remember how many times I played it. But I played Venice now 4 times, and I like it better every time. Dale, one of my favorite type of games is the one where the first time you play it, you like it, and you're interested in exploring it more, and it rewards you. That second and third time gets even better and better. You know what I'm talking about? Are there any things in your mind where the more you play it, the more you get into it?
This month, probably Mariposas, the butterfly game from AEG.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I played that the first time, I wasn't sure if I liked it. And
that's the Hargrave game.
Correct. Right? Yeah. And I wasn't quite what to expect, but man, as I play that, there's more depth than I thought there was to it, and kind of the finesse of the strategy. And I've really enjoyed exploring that, And I'll be honest with you, I'd like to see that arc, although to be honest with you, with as many games as I get, I don't know about you, 4 or 5 games sometimes is the most a game might get, unless it becomes like an all-time keeper in the collection.
It is.
So, it's good that it would be more interesting as it goes on, but man, it better get me by the game 4 or 5 or else I might not have it long enough.
Let me throw out something to you. There was a controversial, in my opinion, statement on the internet a couple of days ago. And the controversy was someone said, I don't know why reviewers even mention replayability because, that is a crutch that, like using the word crunchy, it's a crutch by reviewers because they don't have anything more, more interesting to say. People are going to play the game the number of times they play it. What do you need to do it? And I'm thinking in my brain, let me look at that guy's collection and see if he has any expansion. And if he has one expansion, then that's the reason why replayability is important. But do you agree? Do you agree with this comment that replayability shouldn't be a part of a review at all?
No, I think that's certainly important, but I think I define it maybe differently than a lot of other people. A lot of people define replayability. They want to see random setups and multiple components that can be exchanged in and out so that every game is different and therefore it's replayable. I don't know if, Dominion is that way, right? And so a lot of people feel that's the ultimate game in replayability.
But at the same time, 200 or 300 different cards, and you whittled it down to the 32 that came in the box or 28 that came in the box.
But that being said, I've played Age of Steam, the Rust Belt board, probably 100 times. That's the same game every time. Nothing really changes. Cubes random out of the, but to me, that's just as replayable because the game is good. And to me, replayability is about, do I want to just keep playing the game? Does it catch my interest? Is there interesting decisions to be made?
So variability would be more of the random setups and maybe not that important to you. What you're looking for, does the game make me want to play it more and more?
Yes.
Because I think back to some of my games, and I've played, some games 30 or 40 times. And some, unfortunately, in the age of reviewing, sometimes you can only play a game 3, 4, 5, or 6 times. And then, if you don't like a game, you can keep playing it all you want. And I know some people complain about that. Oh, you haven't played enough. Man, if I've played a game 3 times and I'm still not enjoying it, you're
not going back.
You're even lucky I got to the 3rd play, right? Life's too short. None of us get paid for this stuff. It's not like it's our job. This is what we do because of the love of the game. I'm not going to sit there and play a game 10 times just because you think on the 9th or 10th time I'm finally going to get it. But I do think that we should separate first impressions from playing a game with enough depth, which might be the second or third time, or maybe the 10th time, it depends on the game, to be able to talk about it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I see all these comments that people are getting on you for, patting your back for wearing the shirt, the Our Family shirt. Yeah, so just for all the OGers out there representing here too.
Hey, Chris and Brandon, he's got his shirt on. Yeah, that's Mick and Starla Fitch from Our Family Plays Games, and I got my shirt on.
It's all good.
Yeah, I love family games. I don't have any problem saying that. I love playing big heavy games, and I've got a bunch of my Lisboa is one of my top 10 games of all time. But I still love playing family games. Give me New York 1901 any day, and I'll play it. I just love that way of the game. Not ashamed to say it. So what does Brandon say? I think replayability, variability is far more important to those gamers who aren't collectors. My point is that you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say I'm not interested in hearing a review that talks about modules. Oh, there's a new expansion for this game. Let me buy that. I mean, that's a little bit hypocritical to me, right? Yeah. Johnny Packs of the world. Johnny loves modules because he loves, he thinks he plays games like a designer. He loves that base game, and then I'm going to decide how I'm going to set the game up this time. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In some ways, I do enjoy that. Although, in my taste, I'd much rather Dale just hand me a game and say, "Here, try this game. Set it up and see what you think." I don't need all the modules myself, but I'd like to explore the modules later. So that is a long detour from Venice, from Brain Crack Games. There's that big shot at the end of the board. I am also going to admit, guilty as charged, that if something is really colorful and pretty on the table, it just attracts me. And man, Venice's board, it knocks me out. I just love seeing that. BJ from More Game Gumbo. Oh, can't talk about that one, I don't think. But BJ from More Game Gumbo.
We probably can. We just can't show the board.
You know what? Well, then let's do that then.
Sure.
BJ from More Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Dale Yu from the Opinionated Gamers, and we're talking about Spicy God games that he's played. I haven't, but I've played the first two in the series. Give me your thoughts on the third in a very popular roll and write series.
For the most part, if you played either of the first two, then you know all the rules to this one for the most part.
That's easy.
There are, the same 6 dice with 6 colored or 5 colored dice and 1 wild die.
And then silver die though. I don't.
Yeah, well, the white die is the wild die in this game, and then each of the 5 colors goes into a different block that has its own rules for how you place numbers there. And if you get far enough in each of those 5 areas, you will win a fox, or you will get a free reroll, or get a free die in the pink area. So in many ways it is more of the same, but each of the 5 modules is different and a little unique. But I don't know. I mean, it is certainly more complicated. I mean, our first game we actually played in person, but man, it felt like we were playing over video because it took us like 75 minutes.
I'm sure you're knocking out the regular, 1s and 2 in what, about 30, 35 minutes for Ganshan Clever?
Yeah, pretty much. And then we have also invented, I don't know if you saw the roll and write decathlon.
No,
that takes a good, all right, so that takes a good 2 or 3 hours. I'll have to send this to you. James Nathan kind of came up with this. He's not a drinker, so he wasn't drunk, but he was like, what if we took all these roll and writes and put them together? We rolled a whole bunch of dice at once, and then just went through and played 12 games simultaneously.
Wait, are you taking the dice and assigning through whichever game you want to?
Yeah, no.
Each game and doing it.
So it's, the first 2, That's Clever. The second one, Quicks, Quinto.
Dizzle, one of those games? No?
Yeah, we didn't have that one. We did Corinth. We had a whole bunch, but
sure,
like 10 roll and writes, and I think we ended up having to roll 11 dice. And, so there's one active player, he rolls all 11 dice, and then you use them all. And we had an order that you went through because some of them, you don't have to actually set them aside. You say, I'm using these dice. So we're going to fill out Corinth with all the yellow dice. And then we're going to move on to Quinto because we only need the purple, the orange, and the yellow to figure that out. And then 21, and we did them all. And then, the last one was That's Clever because that's the one where you have to re-roll dice. And so we kind of went through them so that we were never re-rolling dice that we would need in some other game. But essentially you have this giant, huge laminated sheet that has, 10 roll and writes that you're playing all with the same dice roll.
I'm gonna have to ask Patrick about that. Sounds like sounds like a lot of fun. Now, of course, the first two games you have the set aside die. Were y'all still leaving one die that you would set aside for?
Same thing.
Okay, same type.
Exact same rules as that. You roll the dice, you choose one to put on your board. And if there are any dice that are lower than that, they automatically get put into the community pool, and then you re-roll all the rest of the dice that are left and do it 3 times.
So with the short the short review, the 10-second review for Clever, Hoch, Drei would be, if you like Gons, it's more Gons.
And more complex.
If you didn't like Gons, you might not like this, unless you didn't think Gons was complex enough.
But I can't imagine that.
I can't imagine anybody that would say that. Yeah. So we loved both of the first two. I don't know. I've never sat down and thought which one I liked better. I liked the second one because it was fresh and it was different, and we enjoyed playing it. So I sort of say I liked the second one better, but it was only because it was newer.
I could play any of them, and we are working on getting all 3 of these boards laminated on the same sheet. So obviously, we could choose to play these 3 together as a triathlon.
Oh, that would be fun. Yep, the Clever Triathlon, or Cleaver, as some people like to say. The Clever Triathlon. All right, and that is Cleaver, Hoch, Drei, coming out from Schmidt-Spiel. Supposed to be an Essen release, I think.
Most likely.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo. I've got my guests here. Dale, you from the Opinionated Gamers. One more game to talk about, and then we're going to bring in Jay and Steve for the game. And we can do this one quick. Party games have been kind of tough to play in the age of coronavirus. It is true, Dale. But I finally got a chance on a couple of different occasions to play Stringamajig, and also got it to one of the other Gumbo crew who also played it. A party game in the age of coronavirus. Tough to get people together to it, so I played it with the family, and then I also played it with my scout dads this weekend, and I had 2 wildly different experiences. All right, quick pitch on the game. Charades with string. So you're flipping a card, and the card says something like Texas. And normally, instead of having to act it out or Pictionary draw it out, you take charades and Pictionary and you smash them together using string. You get this big old string. It's all in one loop. I'm trying to get to the string if I can. Yeah, big old string all in one loop. And then you've got to manipulate the string on the table. Okay. And with the table, you can interact with the string. And I think this is where I messed up with the family. When I played it with the family, I didn't realize I missed a tiny little rule. Sometimes as reviewers, we miss an important rule. And I missed a rule that said that you could interact with the string even off the table as long as any part of the string was still on it. So that would have made it a lot easier for my family to interact with. For instance, with the guitar, you could pick up the fret and then pretend like you're strumming it. No words or anything. And the rules say, as long as you make a drawing with the string, you can interact any way you want. So it really becomes charades with the hint of the string. Cool. No, you couldn't just ball up the string, throw it on the floor, and stomp on it and say that was a cockroach. You actually have to try to make some kind of drawing. And you can see my daughter did this one with a little fork, to make a nice thing. The second time the second set of games when I played it with the scout dads and had that one additional little rule, and we also played. There's those little cards that have the light colors on it. Those cards challenge words. You can do a partnership, or you can they can guess the word, but they're not supposed to guess like the forbidden word. So there's ways to get bonus points. That kind of makes the game a little bit more interesting. But on this second game, with the ability to interact with it, I found that we were going through the cards a lot easier. We were also playing with a little bit older gamers, and they recognized right away, like in any kind of word game, any kind of charades game, if you get a bad card, don't sit there and waste 12 seconds of a 60-second timer trying to go through the game. Dump it. Go to the next card. So we got progressively better and better, not only at using the string, but also flipping it. By the end of the night, I'm going to tell you that I went in with kind of low to medium expectations after the first plays, and I had a much better time the second night. I think, like I said, older gamers used to playing those kind of games. One of the guys hates charades. He absolutely hates charades. And he's like, this is a game I would play because I'm not having to sit there and just think about acting. I'm interacting with something that I've made. He's an engineer. So the first thing he thinks about is building stuff. and interacting was a lot better. Are you are you a fan of those? Are you still a fan of those drawing, charades, making up story type games?
Not as much, mostly because my group, they're just not into it. So, it's hard to, if everyone's not in the right mindset for those, they're kind of, they're not a lot of fun.
All right. So
I'm going to blame my group.
If you read the transcript, it'll say string is what charades has been missing for so long. But I know Steve well enough to know that the Drei record is it's a little snarkier than that. Yeah. Maybe for some people, Steve, string is what's missing because, as he said, I don't want to just act out without something to act around. So, yeah, and of course, Jay loves his puns. So Stringamajig is going to be right there. This is Stringamajig from Fireside Games. By the way, one of my favorite publishers. So I was a little disappointed that I don't love this game. I do like it, but I don't love it because I do like a lot of their Fireside's other games. So, you know how that is. You always want every game you get from a company to be a home run. This one isn't a home run. But if you have a group that likes party games, that likes charades and all the, you might find Stringamajig is something to check out. And that is Stringamajig. All right, Dale, this is a board game show, man. You know what we have to do on a board game show?
Play a game.
We got to play a game. So I'm going to bring in Steve the Name Father, and I also got making his first appearance on the Gumbo, Jay Bell. What's up, Jay Bell? There he is.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Hello, Dale. How are you?
Good.
So, good. Sure. Any thoughts on those party games? I know, Jay, you love that Stringamajig pun. You got to love that. Are you a party game guy?
I am kind of into party games, but messing around with string, that's my jam.
Oh, really?
I'm trying to be clever with, weird objects. So if you tell me all I can use is string to make pictures and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, Steve, you see the little snarky comment, and there's Jay right there.
You're right on that, BJ.
Again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a mechanical person. I look at a car engine. I have no idea what I'm looking at. But, Jay, you and I think differently. We've talked about that off the air. You think differently. So I could see you getting excited. I've got a copy for Stringamajig waiting for you to play. How's that?
Right. Yeah.
All right. So, hey, Steve, now that we got Dale here, Dale loves his games. He's ready for the game. Tell the chat crew what game we're doing tonight and how BJ is going to somehow pull out a win in this game.
Yeah, I've seen what BJ has written down, so I don't know how I can answer the last bit.
And Dale has not seen this. Let's make sure he knows.
True. Yeah. That's true. We're doing the Boudin Bowl tonight. So this one is one where we've got 3 players, and we're competing to get the attention of the judge, and Dale's going to be the judge on this one. We've got 4 categories. BJ, Jay, and I have drafted games to play in each of these little slots. For each one of these quarters, we'll try to sell to you why our game fits that category best, and Dale's going to judge it and give a touchdown, 7 points, 3 points to second place for a field goal, and 0 for person who, BJ, who has a strange choice of some sort too that doesn't make sense. Jay and I and BJ will all trash talk each other, but you can pay attention to what people are saying in the chat as well, because they'll be lobbying for their choices too.
Yeah, Dale, the chat is involved in this because they're going to try to convince you one way or the other. Hopefully the chat crew loves my choices, as they do every week, Steve.
Yes. And again, like I told you in the green room, the only last rule is that if it's a tie at the end, BJ loses.
Fair enough.
Oh, I haven't seen Steve's charts. Oh, some tough choices here. All right, Steve, get us started.
All right. So let me pull up the sheet here. The first category, we given your background here, we decided to try and find some things that were going to work for you. We wanted to pick a writer game. And I've got writer in quotation marks there. Everybody was free to define it as however they chose that category. So let's do the order we got them in. Let's do BJ, me, and Jay, and then we'll do me, Jay, BJ. We'll just rotate around that way. So BJ, kick it off.
Yep, sure. So I love word games. We didn't get to talk about one of the games that you had, Master Word, which maybe we can talk about another time. But I love word games. Runes is one of my favorite games of all time. Had to get rid of it in my collection because I couldn't get anyone else to play with me, even though I love that game. No one else liked it. So I got rid of it. But one of the games that Bradley has is a game called Paperback. It's from Tim Powers Games, and it's a Dominion plus words. See, Steve? See how I'm thinking there? It's been accurately described as Dominion plus words. So I went with Paperback for no. Wait a minute, Dale's on the show. I didn't even notice that. Oh, what a connection! So that's Paperback, an absolutely fun game with a cool theme where you're actually trying to, come up with these paperback titles with all the different letters. So forget Boggle, put Boggle away in your collection, play paperback instead.
Yep. I like this one. This one wasn't the category that I had questions for you, BJ. I thought you did a good job on this one. I went in a different direction. Rather than writing words yourself, I went with a game that was going to have appeal because it called back to a particular writer. And for me, I went with Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. You're reading through that, and you're also writing and taking notes. You're trying to put together the plot line of that and solve the mystery and think like Holmes, which you can't because he's going to beat you. But it's still a good cooperative game around the table to try and solve this, and it really called to me with the writer theme.
So you went with theme. Okay.
I went with theme rather than mechanic in that sense, yeah.
Jay, what you got?
So
I don't know this game, so you're going to have to sell it to me, man.
The one I decided on was actually just finished on Kickstarter by Evan and Josh Katz. It's Puns of Anarchy. And this one I really like. Yeah, this one I really like because it's a party game that uses the same kind of judging system that you're used to, except it puts a twist on it because every person is a judge in that round. So each round you're dishing out as many witty puns as you can write onto these cards. You're changing Foo Fighters into like tofu fighters or flu fighters, and you're just dishing them into different categories that each person will have. And
who invited Jay on the show, Steve? That's too strong of a choice, man. That's really good.
Wordplay is always going to be interesting to me. That's an interesting one.
Puns of Anarchy, strong choice. James says something called Sinner, Right, and Trade.
That's a game from Indonesia that he loves, and it's a super interesting, but not a game for me.
James, that sounds like a no on that one. All right, Steve, what's next?
Well, we got at this point now. It's time for Dale to start thinking through who he's going to give the touchdown to, who gets the field goal, and who gets Konoyo.
Konoyo.
Well, so for BJ's game, I mean, man, I tell you what, negative points for getting rid of runes because that's like one of my favorite writing games ever.
Yes.
Now, did you know that that's been re-released?
I did not know that.
So it came out.
I had the original Eon edition.
Yeah, so it came out. It's actually going to be a series of 2 or 3 games. The first one's called Wordsmith, which is almost a full re-release of runes. That's from Heidelberg. But they have 2 other games that use that word piece system. So they're trying to expand it out in other games.
You have, Steve, you got pieces of the letters and the designers, I think the same as Cosmic Encounter, if I remember right. And it's the 4 basic parts of the English language letters. I didn't realize you could distill them all into basically 4 parts. And they made a game about putting those parts together into words. Just so much fun. Such a good game. Cool.
But, I think in the end,
like a touchdown, man.
The whole idea of wordplay, though, pretty much always wins out, man. I'm a cryptic crossword guy and puns, and especially if you got to do it seat of your pants. I mean, how can that not be fun?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to give touchdown to Jay, and now I'm trying to decide here who gets a field goal because, I mean, Paperback's a good game. It's a good, got a little bit of deck building. I mean, Sherlock Holmes is more of a reader game to me, not a writer game. And there's a lot of text to read. Though I was super fascinated by the recent designer diary on Board Game Geek about the new Sherlock Holmes cases that are going to come out. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
The problem is that we're going to spend 2.5 hours and we're not going to solve it. And then Holmes solved it in 4 moves. And you're like, what?
That's right.
It's always disappointing. So I'm going to give the field goal to PJ. Sorry, Steve.
Okay. All right.
I'll take it. Paperback with the field goal. I got to admit, I would have voted for Puns of Anarchy. The way Jay, you pulled it well.
Jay's doing well. I hope he's enjoying his first and only appearance.
Maybe the first and only time he gets invited at this rate.
It might be. It might be. Patrick, I know, would love a name like Puns of Anarchy. All right, what's next, Steve?
All right. So I'll put in the marks for that one. It's easy enough to remember that I got nothing. So now we got into a traveler game. And again, everybody's free to define this the way they chose. But I chose one that was going to be based on the theme of traveling. And I went with parks. Parks being one where as you are a traveler, you are out there, you are trying to visit all of the different places, you are trying to have the experiences, you are trying to see the sights. And integral to the game is that idea of traveling around the parks in that. So that one felt like a no-brainer to me, with also the idea that when you see these parks on the cards, you so want to go. It doesn't just do well with the mechanics. It inspires you to want to travel someday.
I like it. Jay?
So my Traveler game travels all the way to outer space. It's a space-themed game, but the mechanics are heavy into travel and movement. I'm talking about Quantum. In Quantum, you're using dice to move around to different planets and drop off your quantum cube so that you can extract energy from the planet. But each dice has its own movement and special ability. The 5 dice can move diagonal. The 2 dice can actually pick up other dice and move them. So you're traveling all over this board trying to collect your points. And that's why I chose Quantum.
I have not played Quantum.
Quantum's a really good game.
Yes.
Sounds pretty good. So for mine, I went with Traveler, and I can't think of a game that doesn't represent that than a whole company, Travel Buddy Games, from Josh from Gray Fox Games. He started a separate company called Travel Buddy Games, and his philosophy, if you know Josh is a world traveler. He loves to travel, loves exotic places, loves all of that, and he collects memories about those. So he said, when he was out there, they used to play Happy Salmon or any kind of game that you can fit in your pocket and introduce people at a hostel. And he wanted a whole company that would produce games like that. The first one is Great Barrier Reef card game. I got a chance to play it. I played it with Josh and with a couple other people. And it's one of my favorite categories. I love the Oink boxes. I love anything that's got portability, tiny little games. But my favorite of those are games like Jiraku that they may be in a small, tiny little package, but they fill up a big game experience. A game like Jiraku will give you an area control game like El Dorado in a tiny box experience and in a short time. And the Great Barrier Reef card game is like that. It's got this cool spatial puzzle where you're trying to put all these beautiful cards on top of a reef and score points with all the different fish that are going through. So it's got great card artwork. The designers put together a nice little package, and it all fits in a tiny little box that you can fit into your pocket. So it's Traveler, and it's also got the Traveler theme. So that is Great Barrier Reef card game. Trying to make it tough on there. Some people call Great Barrier Card Reef game the Dominion of ocean games.
Wow. Now that's kind of pandering, but hey, you got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Hey, Marlon, thanks for taking it. Actually, I haven't heard anybody say that. I just said that for the first time. Go ahead.
Well, let's see. With these, I don't know, Jay. I mean, Quantum's a great game, but I don't know. Outer space and travel. I mean,
it's a long way to travel, man.
I mean, it's kind of an Elon Musky sort of stretch there for travel, isn't it?
Elon Musky.
He's reaching.
Is that a word? I mean, I don't know if it's a word.
No.
I would probably definitely have to go with parks. I mean, I think that the theme is there, and man, those bits are great. I was super impressed with that. I mean, initially, I had first played a similar game. Traveling to the
national parks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, man, I love the art on that and the idea. The game wasn't quite as polished. I mean, I think they ended up polishing it more in the second one, the Traveling the World.
Right.
But parks, I mean, that art is just fantastic, and
beautiful.
The bits are cool, and I mean, yeah, you definitely get the sense that you're seeing the parks and doing that.
Mick is with you. He says parks. So
I would probably say that would be the touchdown, and then the Traveler game's next.
You really mussed that one up there. So you said parks is first, and then
your game from Traveler, the
Great Barrier Reef card game.
Outer space.
Outer space. So, hey, Steve, remind me, the name father. Whenever Mick and Starl on the show, we're not playing the Boudin Bowl because we never sync up. He always hates my choices. He comes here every week and he's like, I'm always stretching. So,
well,
all right.
You have to save that shirt to pander to him.
So, Steve, it's halftime. It's halftime. So, give us the scores, and Dale's going to do a little song, I guess, and a dance if you don't mind.
Right.
That's kind of tradition.
Wow.
It is a close game. Jay and I both have 7, and BJ's got 6.
Ooh,
so
maybe
if Jay was looking to make a bet with you, if he skunked you in the whole tournament, this is going to have to become the Beignet Bowl. It's going to be closer than that.
Well, but if Jay's up in Canada, though, he might still score a rouge here somewhere along the way and tie it up.
There you go.
All right.
There you go. Halftime, close
Pittsburgh
game.
by way of Canada. So, what we got for the next category?
Third game. We come back from halftime, and now we're looking for a quote funny game. And again, define this as you please. And I think in terms of rotating around, we're up to then Jay, BJ, then me.
And funny because you enjoyed Dale's his bio on BGG, right?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And the comments in the notes. I appreciated the callback to Holy Grail and come and see the violence inherent in the system.
All of these are all tied to you, Dale. So, all right. So Jay, give us your choice.
So my funny game is actually one that I played for, I want to say the first or second time this weekend, but here's the kicker. I played it for 5 hours. That's how much fun we were having with this game.
Twilight Imperium?
It's Blockbuster. It was Blockbuster. Like, this game does a perfect job of bringing you back to the nostalgia. It actually brings you back to the Blockbuster parking lot, and you or your friends are in the parking lot discussing all the great movies, and you're acting them out. You're giving quotes for them. You're giving one words, and you're trying to get your friends to guess what it is. And what's funny about it is two parts. One, you see the tension build on their face as the timer's running down, and they got the words on the tip of their tongues, and you're just looking at them like, you're not going to get it, so we're just laughing at you. And then you get to see them do these Oscar-worthy performances or terribly unidentifiable performances of movies you've probably seen a billion times. But again, 5 hours, we didn't get tired of it. We wanted to keep going. Blockbuster.
Really strong at Gen Con. They're the big potato, if I remember right.
Yeah, big potato.
They had that booth, Dale. That was just Alex Goldsmith and I were walking around going, "Oh my god!" I mean, because I lived at Blockbuster. I mean, it just felt like I did. It's right next to my house. Walking around that booth just brought back a lot of memories. So, am I up next?
Yep, it's to you, BJ.
So this is a game I've been wanting to play. Big fan of Wolfgang Barsch. I've seen like everything he's done except that one that's not is The Mine. I think it's
not a game.
Tiny little game that's not really a game. No,
it's not a game. It's not even not like a game. It's not a game.
Yeah, it just didn't hit for me. Everything else though, love Wolfgang Barsch. And the game that he had was called Wavelength. What I liked about Wavelength, I've been wanting to play it, but it was really hard to get. If you didn't get it at the convention, since then it just seems to have been out of print for a while. Really tough to get. But we found a copy on TTS, and I'm gonna have to buy it. This is one of those, hey publishers, put your games on TTS, because I played it for 2 hours the other night and convinced myself, okay, I got to order the game.
Was it 5 hours, BJ?
It was a long time. Well, it was Twilight Imperium, but it was long, Jay. We played it for a long time. Wavelength, Dale, I think you've played Wavelength before, right?
So played it with Alex, the designer, at one of our local cons.
There it is. The premise, very simple. It's that water cooler argument of what is the most overrated athlete or the most underrated athlete, and the guessers have to figure out what the clue giver is thinking in that person's mind, because when they spin the dial, it comes up with a random bracket that is sort of like a radio dial with a wavelength, and it's going to land one way or the other. And the clue giver has to try to give them a clue that's going to give it right to them to where they're going to put the little scanner on there, a little slider. And they want to match it up. The other team is still in because they can pick either the left or the right of that. So the gamesmanship comes with how far you're going to go on it. We laughed our butts during Wavelength. I mean, it was just so much fun playing with my nephews. That's Wavelength. That was a way too long explanation. Sorry about that. I just got excited thinking about how much fun we had at the game.
Okay, back to me. This one, I'm wondering about funny on this one because it might just be my sense of humor, which is kind of skewed and dark. And I'm not sure what yours is, Dale. We'll see how this goes. But if your sense of humor goes toward the Addams Family or Edward Gorey and something kind of nasty, then I would say Gloom, where you have characters like this character. And she's described as Helena enjoys gardening, long walks in the moonlight, and reanimating the dead. Or Butterfield the butler. Whatever it is, he did it. And what you're playing with this is you've got 5 different families, or you're playing with however many people around the table. They have their family members out in front of them. Your job is to kill off all of their family members through using cards like devoured by weasels, or wounded by wasps, or pierced by porcupines, or sickened by salmon. And if you get the right group of people who can tell this as a story as to what you've done to these other characters and how you poison them or push them down the stairs or dump them into the lake, it can be really, really darkly amusing.
Jay, did we have a rule about using props during the Boudin Bowl?
I didn't know.
I don't remember that rule.
The rule is you should have thought of it. And
I'm calling shenanigans Boudin Bowl rule breaker. Dale, ignoring the props.
Completely in bounds. We have a catch.
Yeah, unfortunately for you, though, I think my sense of humor is more on like the Benny Hill side than that.
Okay.
So
I
let's
smell a
see.
Kono-Yo on that one, Steve.
Feeling like it.
Interception.
Blockbuster's pretty cool. I mean, props. The thing I saw, the case kind of looks like an old VHS cover.
Yeah,
It's
flips
pretty
open.
cool.
Yeah.
And I remember having a lot of laughs the very first year the Big Potato guys were in Essen because they were giving like a €3 discount if you brought them a goddamn potato, and they had like this pile of potatoes in the back of their booth. And I was like, "What are you guys going to do with these potatoes?" They're like, "I don't know." But no, yeah, I mean, Blockbuster. I mean, it looks super reminiscent, of also like Time's Up, with the whole charades bit, and you need a lot of pop culture. So that's definitely in the running. But Wavelength is just, I mean, it's an awesome game, especially if you are playing with people because that's when it is funny. Because a lot of people think, oh, it's super easy because the category might be, like using his example, overrated athlete or underrated athlete, and you can say, oh, well, surely I'm going to say Michael Jordan or I'm going to say this, but you can't, because you have to in the end figure out, well, it's pointed like 60%, so I got to come up with someone like who's in the middle.
Sure.
And then and it's just so funny because you are invariably surprised at either you learn something about your friends you didn't know, or if you're given the clue, it's so funny how stupid your friends are because they can't see things the way that you see them. And then it's nonstop laughs.
Oh, my nephew and I didn't sync up at all. Just dumb answers, man. Sorry.
So I'm gonna have to go BJ, then Jay, and then Steve.
All right.
Good pick, BJ.
I like Mix's choice though. Forgotten Waters. That's the Plaid Hat games. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Yeah. Really good writing in that game. Really funny. So good choice there, Mick. I like that.
And then BJ, you may want to look. I don't know if they're still doing that, but the Wavelength Twitter account was playing an online game of Wavelength every day.
No, I do the one.
Alex was putting up.
Yeah, I do the medium one every day. I didn't realize there was one for a Wavelength.
I thought it was on Twitter also, but anyways, it's just something to screw around with every day.
I love it. Yeah, I do the medium one just about every day. Although sometimes my clues are not exactly.
Speaking of which, sometimes BJ's way of playing the game is not the game. The fourth quarter.
Well, Wavelength. What people have told me that Wavelength is like the Dominion of party games. Now, for the fourth quarter, I went with a different choice.
Yeah.
BJ is the Dominion of pandering.
The Donald X Vaccarino of pandering.
We joke about this in this Gateway and Pillar Game Group chat. There's always two games being played. There's the one on the table and the one BJ's play.
Yeah, exactly. So the fourth quarter, obviously.
Fourth quarter. At this point, I'm going to have to play spoilers. So it's a question of who do I want to try and win here? Because I don't think I can get it. But the fourth quarter, the category is a doctor game. And this, again, you're able to choose it the way you want to define doctor. And we're back to the start of the loop. So to be BJ, me, Jay, I think, is the...
That's what I was.
I think so.
Dale, I have a question for you. What once a day keeps the doctor away? What is it?
Your insurance company?
Well, yeah,
Ambulance chasers?
Yes.
I mean, what are you getting at here?
An apple a day keeps the doctor away. So the obvious choice to me was Imperial Settlers. Ignacy Trzewiczek included the world famous, those are apples, or some people say Roman tomatoes, but they're apples, and those apples are integral to the game. I personally can't think of a more important mechanic in the game than the apples that are included in Imperial Settlers. You can't win, especially if you're a barbarian, unless you have apples. So Imperial Settlers, obvious choice as the doctor game.
All right. I can't even get
I assumed I was losing at this point.
I can't even get my game at this point because the only thing is it that why wasn't it apples, two apples? Because you got double the apples. You had
True.
But again,
that has nothing to do with doctors though, and Imperial Settlers. Yeah,
of course. Oh, I see the connection now. Thank you.
No, Mick, that is too obvious. Dice Hospital, way too.
Dice Hospital's a good call.
You got to veer. You got to zig.
This was an old school one for me, one that first got me into the modern board game hobby, and that would have been Pandemic. And you've got the medic.
Too soon.
And it is too soon, but hey, here we are. So you're arguing for imperialism, BJ? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah,
right.
sure.
Oh, too soon.
Yeah. Still
Too soon.
Still too soon.
Yeah, still too soon. Yeah.
For me, pandemic would be the one that really works because you've got the 4 diseases that you're trying to control around the board, and the medic is that super person who's going from place to place. But the heroes are the researchers and the quarantine specialists in the background. This is not just a doctor. This is medicine on a board, epidemiology on a board. So that one's mine.
Good choice.
Wow.
Jay?
How do I follow that?
You
No,
could just
I
give
know
up,
exactly.
Jay. And I'm
no.
unbiased, and I think that's a
Oh,
great
no.
strategy for you.
You got the field goal, Jay.
DJ, you mentioned Wolfgang, right? You
I
mentioned
did.
Wolfgang? Well, I'm choosing Quacks.
There it is.
Quacks
Quacksalber.
Quillenberg. Because not only do you get to be a doctor in this game, you get to be a bad doctor, a charlatan. You get to do what you can't do normally as a doctor, is throw weird stuff into.
He's a real doctor, though, Jay. He's a real doctor.
And I'm sure
could
he's
be a
better
quack.
Yes. But yeah, in this game, not only is the game beautiful with the die-cut player boards, the books, everything about the game is immersive. You know, you're pushing your luck, so you feel like you're a doctor sometime, where it's like you have to make the right decision, you know? Everything is hinging on this one bag pull. You might get it right, you might get it wrong, but it's super important. And then you also get to be a doctor because you just study rats, and rats help you get, you know, just as good as the other doctors. You can just close the gap by studying rats. As you're
There's Dale doing his rounds, checking his paper, and nurse, give me that bag.
Rats.
Oh, we saved you.
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, that's mine.
Mick does not like my choices here. He says it's not even in the stadium; it's in the parking lot. All right, but he does approve of Quacks, and so does James Nathan. They've got great taste. So Dale,
Well, James Nathan is saying Quacksalber, which is a very unbelievably obscure German game where you're doctors and you win by killing off the most patients.
oh, that's a different game. Okay,
Yeah.
No. That does not sound like a good doctor game.
So no pressure, but it's all on the line.
Wow. I don't know. The apples, may actually keep me away. Like, I can't even figure out how to tie that in, even if it is,
Yes.
I'm working on it. No.
Nope, not thick enough.
Probably, going with pandemic, not just because, of the obvious thematics, but man, it is just a game that, I'll admit I'm biased, but thankfully didn't get quite the respect that maybe it does, that it came up in a bad year, because it very well should have been Spiel des Jahres. When was the last time that there were essentially two genre-forming games in the same year? I can't think of another one, right? In any other year, plus minus 3 years from 2009, Pandemic would have won for sure.
Either one of those.
Rightfully
games,
so.
Yeah, either one of those games should have won. They just
And-
happened to be the same year.
Yeah, and I had a great experience playing that game for the very first time. And admittedly, I've never been a great fan of co-ops, but getting to play that with Leacock in Berlin was it was cool.
Oh, wow.
And it's a game that's well deserving of everything all the accolades that it's had, and certainly timely this year, more so than any other, right? Sort of talk to some of them as the sales this year of that game have been through the roof. Admittedly, so is Dominion. Because people have, people didn't take vacations, and it seems like buying games and doing home renovations is the 2020 activity of the year, because you can't do anything else.
Do you agree with Chris Ray that Fauna was up there in that little triumvirate?
In the top three for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
There were only 3 games there, but that's
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I'll put it on
Fauna's
tape.
actually pretty sweet too, but it's not a traveling game and not about doctors, so
That's true. Yeah, Chris, that's an automatic flag. Not unlike Imperial Settlers, Fauna has nothing to do with doctors. So
right. So I guess I'm going with Steve and then Jay. There's nothing wrong with a little quackery, because sometimes it doesn't matter what you do to treat them, as long as they get better, it's all good.
There you
the
go.
placebo effect, right?
Right. There you go.
All right, so you're going with Steve, Pandemic. Are you all in on Pandemic? Do you keep going? Do you keep playing everything that comes out?
No, I don't. I play the base and I play the dice game.
Mhm.
And I am looking for, though, we have made a request, and hopefully Z-Man will grant it, to play Pandemic Legacy Season 0 early.
Okay.
I actually we were so desperate to play it, I actually sent an email out to Rob Davio trying to say, hey, can you hook me up? He's like, no, and I've already busted up all my prototypes because otherwise I might have sent you something. But even if they don't send one, someone in my group, I'm sure, is going to get one, and we'll try to play that.
I'm in the Pandemic season, Pandemic Legacy, and then the base Pandemic with the next expansion that came out that had the trader mechanic. But other than that, I haven't really gotten into anything. But Pandemic Iberia is the one that to me looks just really different, look really cool. So I would like to try that one at some point.
Cool.
All right, so Steve, wrap it up. How did it end up?
Closest Boudin Bowl ever, I think.
Probably so.
14, 13, 13.
Wow.
But it snuck it out with the late touchdown because BJ was doing his Leon Lett impression, showboating before the end, and pulled out Imperial Settlers. So I think he kind of gave that one to us. But 14, 13, 13, close match.
I thought Imperial Settlers were winners, so I take note of that. Luke says he likes The Rock, man. Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, which I have not played.
We played that at Luke's house, and his daughter calls it the monster game, and she's right. It's cool.
Monster game. And that is the Boudin Bowl presented by Game Toppers LLC. Hey, Dale, make your game nights a showstopper when you play on a Game Topper. So
Nice.
Our friend Berkey supports the Southern Board Game Fest as a fundraiser for New Hope Foundation, providing mentoring services for some of the disadvantaged youth on the north side of our town. Unfortunately, we had to push it off to next year. But we're doing an online part in October 10th. So look out for that. Yeah, in fact, Jay will be running a Potion Explosion tournament if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Not the same as our regular con, but still, we're going to make it happen. All right, so let me send Jay and Steve the victorious. Who's the big winner?
Yep.
Was Jay? Steve.
I took it by one. It was close.
The victorious Steve and the victorious Jay.
Good
All
talking
right.
to you, Dale, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, Dale.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Dale, that was Boudin Bowl. Your first time playing the Boudin Bowl. Not too bad? Enjoyed
Yeah,
that?
it's fun.
Tough choices. At least we tried to make it tough on you. If we could. Yes, and usually I have a bad fourth quarter, so that does happen. All right, board gamers, that's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. Hey, Dale, how can people reach you if they want to get in touch with you to talk to you more about some of the games you mentioned tonight or some of the events that you have coming up?
The easiest way would be at our website, www.opinionatedgamers.com. But we also have active accounts on Instagram and Twitter, and even Facebook. You can hit us up on any of those.
And gamer without an E, if I remember right, because they ran out of...
we didn't have enough Opinionated GMRS, I believe.
But if you Google Opinionated Gamers Twitter or Google Opinionated Gamers blog and sign up for their email, because you'll get every morning I wake up and I can see, what review is coming out. So I really enjoy the consistency that y'all have. I wish I were that consistent. I can't get a review out every day, but you guys do, and that is awesome. Make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com, Board Game Gumbo, and our YouTube channel, because it helps us to get the word out about all of our upcoming guests and shows. Thanks, Brandon. Great show. Enjoyed doing that. Yep. Next week, we've got Justin D. Jacobson of Restoration Games. We're going to be talking about designs, and we're also going to be talking about Cobble and Fog, the new expansion for Unmatched, one of my favorite games of the year. And hopefully I'll see Chris Ray later on this season, because I always love visiting with Chris. I am BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and until next time, Dale, laissez le bon temps rouler.
Thanks for having me.